Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
And welcome to another episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
Charles.
John.
Mark.
And I'm Seth.
And Mark's joining us for the first time this episode to talk about Star Trek Picard. Longtime Star Trek fan. What's your favorite Star Trek?
The Next Generation.
Okay.
I grew up with that one, and I watched it every day and very religiously in college, too.
Nice. Now, have you watched the other ones as well, or?
Yes, I've seen parts of Enterprise. I gave up on it partway through. I've seen all of Deep Space Nine. Loved that show. And then the movies.
Yeah.
The more recent
What about
ones.
Voyager? Any Voyager?
Oh, sure. Let's see. Voyager, I saw a couple episodes.
Okay.
I had a tough time getting into it. It was one of those things where, it was airing, and I didn't spend a lot of time watching TV.
Gotcha.
So when I did, it was The Next Generation, basically, exclusively.
Okay, well that's good because Picard features heavily in Next Gen.
So, Mark, why didn't you like Enterprise?
Well, you and I have gotten into this many times, but the show was lacking in any sort of real story, and I call it the sexy adventures of T'Pol because it's basically what
That's
the
why I
show
watched
was,
it.
Right? And that's the only reason to watch it.
Enterprise fan service is very much,
Yeah, I was thinking about what show it compares to, and it kind of reminded me of this old one called Sequest.
Oh yeah.
With the talking dolphin and
Right.
I just like it just felt gimmicky and
So,
no good.
So
and
is T'Pol the talking talking dolphin then?
Probably. I mean, how is it that she always gets some space virus that just makes her really need to go into Ponfar mode or whatever they call that?
Yeah,
Like,
or go into the sauna and have to get rubbed down with a special antibiotic ointment.
yeah, everything in space makes Vulcans revved up,
And
apparently
and
she
it's
felt the brunt of it.
yeah, it was never just her needing to go in to get an antibiotic ointment,
Right.
but somebody had to be in there to rub it on her in her underwear.
usually Trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In his underwear.
Yeah, they were pushing those two together so hard.
Yeah.
It's just like you could almost see the director like with his hand on either one's face going, "Now kiss."
Yeah,
Boy, I should
He's
have
off
watched more of
camera.
that.
Yes.
Make it happen.
Well, and
Yeah.
which
It's that kind of show.
It was exactly that
this
kind of
show is that kind of show.
Oh, this is
whatever it is you want.
whatever you want to do. Okay,
Make it
so I
happen.
don't have to be on my best behavior.
no.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
And the
Alright,
question, I guess, which cat suit did you like better, T'Pol's or Seven of Nines?
T'Pol, I think.
I would say T'Pol.
both were just blatant fan service.
Sure.
It's like very tight shirts for the fanboys at home.
But if you think about it, when you're out in space, you don't want loose-fitting clothes that's going to get caught indoors.
That is,
Absolutely.
every once in a while you
Or when
say
you're on an
things-
EVA.
Right, when you're on an
Every once in a while
EVA.
you say things in a very calm tone, so that you think people will think that you're not full of shit.
Well,
And
he
it's
actually
like,
does have a point.
no, he
Yes.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, he
Like the
doesn't.
bulky spacesuits are not good though.
No.
Well,
Like
there's
they
a
really
reason,
limit mobility.
They
and
do, but
And they get caught in gears, and they get caught indoors, and
I mean,
and think about how hard it would be for a
So there's no
transporter to
transition
duplicate
between
the fall of a
bulky
cloak
space
as the
suits
wind's blowing it and you're
But-
leaning out.
the skin
It's
tight
reasonable.
spandex
Right.
of
Those are Mark 1
T'Pol and
transporters.
7 of 9.
Right.
well, I mean, just like think about how often Klingons have to be catching all their like buckles and knives on stuff as they go through the
Right.
spacecraft.
They walk down
But-
the middle of the hall like badasses. They don't walk next to things. That's not for Klingons. It's not the Klingon way.
Yeah, well, okay,
Good
if
point.
that's the case, why don't the men have to wear the spandex?
I mean, if you look at the next. If you look at the Next Generation uniforms, those are pretty tight.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah?
They were spandex in the beginning.
That's because men walk down the center of the hallways like badasses. They don't need the tight clothes either, I guess.
Like,
This is degenerating rapidly.
Yes.
This is,
All right. Well, let's.
this is Galactic Driftwood.
Yes,
We
yes, it is.
started as
No,
degenerates.
I'm not saying it's not what we do. I'm just saying we're going where we go faster than we normally go where we go.
It's
so it's like,
what we
You're
do.
welcome.
It's what we do.
Well, let's jump into Picard so we can get going on that because there's a lot to talk about, I think. Where we sit now, we've seen the first 2 episodes of Picard. 2 episodes, yep. And so we've seen Data in dream sequences, Picard's dream sequences. And we also have seen the synthetic revolt. Synthetics are basically androids.
Spoiler alerts for those of you
Yeah,
who have
spoiler
not seen
alerts.
it.
Yeah, we're talking about a show that's only 2 episodes out and behind a paywall. So I'm guessing that a lot of people are going to be spoiled, and hopefully you're fine with that.
Hopefully, yeah.
So anyway, we've seen the synthetic revolt, and which
First of all, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How do you feel about Data being gone forever? Because the neural net did not take with B4,
Right.
And therefore, there's no data coming back.
Yeah, they shut that down pretty hard.
Right.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They made it
Right.
a hard.
Did they though?
Yeah.
Because
so.
what they were saying is that his whole neural net could be rebuilt.
Yeah, why did they? I only saw
But
the
it
first
wouldn't
episode.
be
But
Data.
why would
It's
they
like-
introduce that to shut it? Well, okay, never mind.
Probably because if they did, then they had to put Brett Spiner in, and Brett Spiner's older than.
well, and he also
Then
said
yeah,
that he
Data
doesn't
now.
want to come back, and in any meaningful way that would reduce the impact of the way he went out in
No.
Nemesis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I don't
Yeah.
like people, doing the dead and undead
God.
thing too much.
He wants to respect his role in Genesis. Or
Nemesis.
Nemesis. Sorry.
Well,
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Well, he
It
wants
was
to
his
respect the
character's
way
arc,
he went
though.
out.
It was his
Yeah.
character's death, so
Yeah.
no
He
matter
might-
how
that
bad.
might have been the best part of that whole movie. Yeah. Not his death, but the acting involved
that was actually-
in Brett
His
Spiner's
sacrifice.
character's
Yeah,
death.
and
So,
that was
yeah.
definitely an impactful scene.
The rest
They
was
did well.
terrible.
Yeah.
That's been one of the things I've actually been like scared at with Picard is that I'm gonna have to go back and watch Nemesis.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. It's like
They'll give us what we
Nemesis
need
or
to watch
Star
now.
Trek 5. Nemesis or Star Trek 5. Which do I want to hurt myself with more?
You know, Linda and I watched Nemesis
Cybok should have been
again
in Nemesis.
the other day, and it kind of felt, in watching it now, after a number of years of not having seen it, it struck me as a very Picard Data cop movie. Because, a buddy cop movie, right?
Yeah.
Because you see him, in the beginning, Data and Picard are in that dune buggy driving through the desert, collecting pieces of B4, and then later on they're both on the Scimitar, the warship that belongs to Nero, and or not Nero, Shinzon, and they grab that little looks like a Viper type of shuttlecraft or fighter craft or whatever, and they crash and they're driving through the halls of the Scimitar, which it's nice that they have corridors that aren't the size of the corridors on Enterprise because it never would have fit. So that was convenient. But they're both in that ship, kind of fighting their way out, right? And then later on, it just kind of continues that theme throughout the whole show, and it's like, I think they did that to make the death of Data at the end more impactful because you see the two of them kind of buddying through the whole thing.
Yeah, I haven't seen Nemesis in so long, so I just remember it being bad and never wanting to go. I've like blocked the memory from my brain. Aside from Romulan Picard clone and the death of Data. But
yeah.
like that doesn't like Insurrection sounds like it was a whole lot more of a Star Trek, like had more of a Star Trek feel than Nemesis ever did.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
Insurrection
Yeah.
or Nemesis? I saw it.
All right.
I saw Nemesis, and I was like, no, no, thank you.
I kind of liked Insurrection.
Yeah.
Oh no, Insurrection I kind of liked too. I mean, it's not the best of the
Yeah,
movies, but it was
true.
it's still pretty Star Trek-y.
Yeah.
It felt like a long episode. Was
It did. It
Insurrection
did.
to me.
I
Yeah.
didn't
It
think
was
about
kind of
that
shot in
way.
a similar way. It had the same pacing. I don't know. I enjoyed it for the nostalgia factor.
Right.
Yeah.
For that, like
Right.
it felt like just a good episode of a show I loved. So
Yeah, I mean that planet's still there, right?
yeah, nothing happened.
All,
to that.
all
Yeah.
immortals there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long
Why
as you
didn't
live
Picard
there.
just retire there?
Yeah.
He had
Indeed.
he had a
Yeah.
girlfriend there,
Yeah.
and
I
plenty of
bet that-
vacation he was
I
going to
thought
use to
that
go
was his
visit her.
plan,
Right.
Was actually, kind of just go
Yeah,
there.
he
That would have
probably
been my plan. Just like, yeah.
Well, but he had Romulans to take care of.
No.
Well,
I
he's-
mean, you
Oh,
could
his
take
brother's
that, I
vineyard.
guess.
Isn't he kind of hiding out? I only saw the first episode.
He wasn't
Yeah.
really hiding out.
Well,
he
no,
was,
he admits that he was.
Yeah. He's,
No,
He was
I
hiding
mean,
from his
he-
problems. He wasn't
he-
hiding from.
Yeah, he wasn't
people.
hiding from
Yeah.
people or anything.
Well,
He was just.
I thought he
All
was.
the more reason to go to the immortal
Yeah.
planet with the girlfriend. It's
Yeah.
It's like the Federation pissed him off, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like,
So what we know, so the synths destroyed the Utopia Planitia fleet yards on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened to have been where they were building the rescue fleet to go rescue the Romulans from the exploding supernova that was going to destroy a lot of the Romulan Empire. And so once those fleet yards and those rescue ships were destroyed, there was no will in the Federation to continue the effort. And they even said in, I think, this last episode that there were like
14 planets.
worlds,
that were against continuing with the effort to go rescue the Romulans. And so,
Out of thousands, though.
Yeah,
That was
true.
kind of weird.
yeah, I know. And so two things struck me on that. Well, so that in and of itself is what prompted Picard to resign, because he had hoped that his resignation from Starfleet would have been a wake-up call to them to maybe rethink their policies, and it didn't happen that way. And so he just kind of retreated from everything on his chateau with his two Romulan buddies. But the one thing that struck me there was that comment that there were 14 worlds that were wanting to withdraw from the Federation. And we know from the trailers we've seen of the next season of Discovery that they run into the Federation. There's a Federation outpost or command center that they go to in one scene in the trailer, and you see the United Federation of Planets logo back behind them. And where it used to be like that crescent with a whole bunch of stars in it, now there's only like 6 stars. And so it's almost like there's been a whole breakup of
well, it's
the
over
Federation.
1,000 years.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I know.
but for
But
those
that
of us
may
who
be where it
haven't watched
started.
Discovery,
Yeah.
Spoilers.
It's
Spoilers for that.
it starts off there, like what, in the past, a couple years before Pike took over the
Yeah, about 10
Enterprise?
years before Pike's already in command of the
Pike's-
Enterprise.
Pike's in
Okay.
It's
command
about
of
10
it,
years
yeah.
before Kirk and Spock. come.
Okay, but then, like, basically they do so much crap that they can never fit it back into any sort of actual timeline, so they just skipped the whole
Yeah.
ship and series 1,000 years ahead of where we
Thank
left
any
off
story
on
is.
Voyager.
Thank you, Alex Kurtzman, for that totally craptastic 2 seasons of Discovery. But I have hopes for the 3rd season,
Yeah,
because now they can actually
they can do anything
do
they
anything
want.
they want, rather than really wreck canon, which is, I mean, from the first second of the show, the Klingons, that is enough to actually,
We're going through our punk phase
Yeah,
as a species.
Yeah.
We just do this every couple series, just like completely overhaul just everything.
But it'll be interesting to see how much of what happens in Star Trek Picard we see the long-term fallout for in the next episode
See,
of Discovery.
I would actually hope that not too much. Like,
because 1,000 years is a long time.
It is.
plus it's also locking in your timeline 1,000 years in the
Exactly.
future. And like what I like most about Picard is that they're finally building on what they've already done,
Right.
as opposed to going back and trying to, oh hey look, here's Kirk for 2 seconds.
Right.
Didn't you guys like that? That was a fantastic moment, right?
Ever since
Here's some
I'm
Spock. You guys like Spock. We know you like Spock.
I'm
Right.
still
Yeah,
trying to figure out how they're going to get the Emperor back
I don't know.
to be part of Section 31.
So
because she went to the future. and-
In Discovery, their Empress Giorgio is the Mirror Giorgio. So you know from the original Star Trek, the Mirror episode, and also DS9 had their own Mirror episode. And,
I never saw that one.
They had a couple.
I saw
Yeah.
the Enterprise one, but I didn't see
Okay.
the DS9 one.
yeah, DS9. And
It was over the top in a lot of
Is it
fun.
good?
Yeah,
Right? I'll
Yeah.
check that
Yeah.
very entertaining.
yeah.
DS9 is just a good show.
It
So
is.
anyway, what transpires in Discovery, we get our Giorgio dies, and Empress Giorgio from the Mirror Universe ends up in our universe.
Giorgio. It's like,
Yes,
are you
The Prime
not-
Giorgio.
Are you not a mirror?
I'm
Bill?
not. I'm
You got a
the
beard.
I'm Prime Bill.
You got a beard.
Mirror
right?
Bill has no beard.
Oh, that's-
So anyway, when we last saw Discovery, she took a time jump 1,000 years into the future, and Empress Giorgio was on there. But supposedly, there's a Section 31 Star Trek series that's going to be coming out in another year or so, and she's definitely going to be on that, along with Vok, who was the
Excuse you.
Klingon, yes, who was the Klingon Ash Tyler crossover guy.
Well, Vogue is still there. So
Yes.
it's like, but I mean, now they've got to figure out a way. They didn't have to do that.
I'm thinking she probably steals the time suit or something.
What?
The
Okay.
time suit?
Yeah,
What?
There's a time suit.
yeah.
Did you not
The-
know about the time suit?
No.
The
There-
red, the
there
red
is a
angel
ti-
time. Yeah, the red angel time suit.
The
Even
what?
named.
That was the
The Red
whole
Angel's
point
time
of the
suit.
second
Oh, is
season.
that what the whole Red Angel thing
Yeah.
was?
Yeah.
Time suit?
There,
Yeah, the red angel time suit. It's
a time suit.
Yes.
Why didn't they just give him a police box?
Why not? It's a
Well, because
MacGuffin.
the suit
It's
looks a lot
it's
sexier.
Total.
Oh, really? Is it a form-fitting time
Well,
suit?
you don't want to
Well,
leave parts of yourself.
It's
Oh, of
form-fitting.
course.
Let's
Right.
just say that
You don't wanna get
only-
your
only
cloak
women can
caught
wear it.
on
So it's like,
1950.
Oh my God.
it
Oh,
is.
God.
Yeah.
You get your cloak caught on 1950 and you travel to the future. That's going to be painful. Snap you back like a heart,
of
like a rubber
course.
band.
Why did I expect? See, this is why I like Picard so much so far.
Can you see
They're not gonna
why
trip
I'm a
over
little
themselves.
angry about Discovery? Why I think that the first and second season of Discovery is absolute crap. But
Well,
it's
I
like-
mean, this is kind of why I haven't wanted to watch Discovery all that much, is because I know all this.
So you don't know
ridiculous
anything
stuff
about
is-
the Klingon time crystals then?
no.
Please
that-
tell me
that
that
in-
you just had a stroke or
No,
something.
no, it's the Klingon time crystals that
That
allows
make the
the
suit
red
to work.
the red angel suit to work. Oh my
Yes.
Gosh.
See, it gets better. I told you it gets
So
better.
so it
How'd they
needs
even find out
Klingon
they're
time
time
fuel.
Klingon time crystals.
That's-
And
That's what I said.
because,
the problem is,
How did they figure out that they were Klingon time
Because
crystals?
Klingon scientists, I don't think they're that smart. So they must have been hitting each other with them or
Yeah.
something.
no,
one of
they,
them went
they
back
didn't
in
manufacture.
time?
They
They're like,
found
"Where'd
them.
he go?"
They
Yeah, they
found them
stole 'em.
on a Klingon world,
Yeah.
and then there's that
Of
course
Klingon
they did.
world is inhabited by Klingon monks,
Yeah, isn't that the
and
where
their
where
sole
Worf went
function is to
to
protect the time crystals.
Isn't that where Worf went?
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
But no, it's if you touch the time crystals, you see your own death. So you
That's
have
it?
to. Yeah,
Or some tragic part of your future.
if you touch, all right, your future is not set in stone
Until you touch a
until
time
you touch
crystal.
a time crystal, and then because Pike touched it and he saw himself die in the
Not die, but
or,
get
or
irradiated.
crippled in that radiating accident that ended up having to go back to the Menage
that,
planet.
that put him in
Why
that made
does
him into
time
a-
become set when you touch a time crystal?
because you've seen it.
It's
So
the
it's like
idea of perception
Schrodinger's cat thing.
Hitting reality.
If
Yeah.
you open up the box, the cat's both alive and dead until
That
you
doesn't
open
make
it.
any sense, though.
And then when you open it,
See, that's what I'm talking about. He talks very calmly.
No,
even
but
though
then
he's
when
talking
you-
shit.
no, but then when you
It's
open
like
the box
absolute
and look at the
crap.
cat, that forces all quantum possibilities to coalesce into a
Box has
single
been
reality.
That
Now,
is
that-
that's
And so
still-
that's what happens when you touch the crystal. You see into the
Schrodinger's
future,
cat is
and
a
it
theoretical
forces
concept.
No, it
all
doesn't.
quantum possibilities to
because-
collapse into a single
No, that's
reality.
not how it works.
That
that's not how
is
any
how
of
it
this
works.
Well,
in
that's
Star
how
Trek.
it's described, but if that happens, that's literally forcing all quantum probabilities to go away for everybody because
Yeah.
everyone's existence has to follow that particular line.
Well,
It's
just the
just-
closer
it's
you
just
are
dumb.
to the
Oh,
person.
there's the red angel on the
Yeah,
screen.
there's Red Angel right there. It's like that's the time suit. There
Well,
it
if
is.
they're talking about perception being
not the best
reality,
picture of it,
it
but
reduces quantum
you get better
possibilities for
pictures
one person, and
later.
they can just diverge into their
When
own
the-
reality.
I
Right,
mean,
maybe
Yeah,
that's-
but they
maybe
don't.
that's
When
the idea.
Burnham's
They don't.
mother
They-
is
they stay in this
captured
one.
in
if you
the
told me that was from X-Men, I would also believe it.
yeah, if Linda can find a picture of Burnham's mother in the Red Angel suit, There should be a better.
What
little
about
better
that one
picture
up
of it.
there?
So females only get to travel in time?
What are those
No, but
pictures of,
her mother was working
the
on
suit?
the time suit for the Federation,
Oh, okay.
and so
Oh,
the
there's the
Klingons
Federation. Oh
found
my
out
God.
that the Federation had gotten possession of a time crystal. So the Klingons came to take it back and destroy it. In the process, they murdered Burnham's parents, but the mother escaped in the time suit because it was working to a point where she could use it. And so they were testing it, but it was about ready for the final test. And so she just decided, well, I either use it and die and risk death, or I stay here and let the Klingons murder me. So she took it and buzzed off 1,000 years into the future. Which is why that's where Discovery ends up going.
So, back on this stupid thing where you touch a time crystal and then your future is locked.
Yes.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yes.
Well,
Because, like,
It's
you
not
touch a
locked for
time
everybody,
crystal.
but it's locked for you.
yeah.
No, it's
Well, it
still the
has to be
dumbest thing
locked
I've
for
ever
everybody.
heard.
Because that-
that
I don't think
removes-
so. I'm
that
with
reality
Bill
has-
on this. I
Yeah.
think you can be entangled with your future,
Yes.
No, okay, so you touch a time crystal
and now you're entangled.
and you see yourself jumping off or
Everyone
falling
at-
off a cliff 50 years from now.
Yes.
There is nothing preventing you from pulling out a phaser and just.
But you wouldn't do that
Why not?
because your future's set.
So you just lose all free
so
will.
We're back
Exactly.
to Krull again. And the
You
one-eyed
have-
we are.
Cyclops that can't avoid his fate.
You
Yeah.
have right,
All right,
exactly.
All right.
Same thing. You can't avoid your fate. You
So-
can maybe make all kinds
Except-
of
You're
different
going to
choices,
defend your out.
but
you're-
eventually,
No one should ever defend their argument with Krull. Ever.
Well,
Krull's
well,
terrible.
but keep in
I'm
mind,
with John on this.
eventually,
I
the
will
choices
agree
you
with
make, no
John.
matter what choice
Do I
you
get an
make,
inspiration
that
point for
choice
that?
will be the
Yes,
one that
you
leads
get
to
an
your fear.
inspiration.
no, it's going
point.
to come right
Right?
back. Yeah, no, I see. I think you can be entangled.
Yeah.
I think your future. It might be that your future's not really set right now,
Right.
but when it is
Really,
set,
really. It's
Yes.
only really,
when
really
it is
not
set,
really,
it's going to
really,
come
really
back and act as if it was set.
Yes.
Mm.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
No,
no, it's
I
entirely
I don't think it's
possible.
that inconsistent either.
Yeah.
I actually agree with the Star Trek logic on it as well.
Yeah. See.
Sorry.
See. There you go.
Now-
Yay!
That is
okay.
that is still different.
You
than
can all
Crawl.
be-
Mark, you're
Crawl,
welcome back
I-
anytime.
I do
You
want
can all
every-
be wrong. I'm fine with that.
Everybody should make note that in Crawl, though,
Yes.
if I remember right,
You're gonna now you're gonna use Krull to defend yourself, and now you're gonna not
No.
Krull.
He's
No,
gonna
no,
he's gonna
no.
clarify Krull.
no, but if I remember right, in Crawl, he wasn't supposed to betray his future.
Right.
He could, and then it'd be a worse future.
Right. It'd
It
be
would
a
always
worse-
get continually
Okay, so
worse.
that's
Right.
what the picture Linda just had up there. The guy, I'm assuming he's holding a time
Yes.
crystal.
Yes.
That's the face of a guy who realizes that
His free will
he
is dead.
dies
Put it on
in
the
some
screen.
sort of sex-related accident.
Can you put that time?
From
God.
wearing a form-fitting time suit.
I didn't see it up there.
Oh my gosh.
It was
That's
on your
kinda-
screen, but not this one.
Yes.
kinda
Yeah,
What?
you're right.
Yeah, that's the face you'd make if you like find out that you're like,
Oh. Oh God.
oh no, oh and now I can't avoid this.
Death
Just
by
fine.
bunga bunga.
Yeah.
No, it's
you're
nothing that like in that case he'd probably be like, yes, I could deal with that many,
He does look like Mom found the pictures on his cell phone.
and he died
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah, there he is.
Can you put it up here on the screen? So
Soon as
It-
the
it-
button that says press F11 goes off the screen.
really,
Right. All right. So
Yeah.
there it is. So that's what we're talking about. That's his look.
We're talking about a whole lot of Discovery, and it's just
Right.
making me more and more angry. Let's go back to
All right,
Picard.
so
that
back
makes
to
me
Picard.
happy.
All
That's
right.
a good
So anyway, the androids destroy the Utopia Planitia yards.
But-
As a result, the Federation bans all synthetic life forms.
Indeed, but also like right before that, when Android starts messing with stuff that leads up
F8,
to the attack,
Or
yeah, F8.
fate, as I call him.
You see, like his eyes, it looks like he's getting some sort of upload.
Yes, right. And so the question is, what we learn in that episode is that there is an ancient cabal that uses the Tal Shiar as a mask to hide behind.
And
But
they
this-
are called
The Zotvash.
the Zodvash.
They're down there.
Ah, there
The
we go.
Zotvash. And what they say about them is that they are thousands and thousands of years old, and that for some reason they have always hated synthetic life.
Well, no, they keep a secret.
A secret, but I think it's the hate of, maybe it's the secret that leads to the hate of synthetic life.
Maybe.
And I do have to say, as far as mortal enemies for a big Star Trek species goes,
Mhm.
way better to hate synthetic life forms than tribbles.
True.
So the Klingons got the short end of the stick on the mortal enemy side of things.
Tribbles are actually an interesting little symbolic analogy for like humans, and it's like how we are actually just
Warm and cuddly.
overpopulating and destroying all of our resources. So yes,
Born pregnant.
We are born to like at least tolerate other people, but it's like when you hit 7 billion, and it's like people's opportunities are evaporating, people are starving all over the world.
I think that has more to do with how we organize ourselves.
And that, how's that different than what tribbles do? They can't control themselves. It's like, and neither can people. So,
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
back to Picard and the Zotvash.
Yes. So anyway, so the Zotvash hate synthetic life forms, and so what we see is that this android, Fate, F8,
Mm-hmm.
he's going around doing his thing, and then all of a sudden he stops, and you see his eyes flicker with strange lights that look like he's getting some sort of a program update. And then right after that, he goes ballistic, turns the Martian planetary defense weaponry on the planet. You see all these ships coming down, basically incinerating the Utopia Planitia yards. In fact, they say in I think the first episode that Mars is still on fire from that attack 14 years ago.
Which bummer.
I feel it's a wasted opportunity. It's like,
In what way?
because basically the synthetics are just Cylons. I mean, Star Trek could have done it first.
Yeah, well, you
They-
could have. I was
Now,
going to say, you don't know what that upload came from, right? Like,
Right.
maybe it had nothing to do, with the rest of synth kind.
Yeah.
It could have been some other elements. And
Yeah,
touched
so
on
I
it.
mean
that
that's
Windows 10 update that they're waiting for. Yeah.
but I mean, like
Well-
we know that he got an update, but I'm assuming that no one in the Star Trek universe knows he.
right.
that
Plus,
happened.
plus at the end he blew his brains out.
Yeah.
Right. So there was
I
no.
wanted to watch my last Windows 10 update too. So
Yeah.
I did.
Now, the fallout from that was not only the banning of all synthetic life forms, which supposedly the Zotvash would be in favor of, but it also stopped the Federation's relief efforts for the Romulan Empire based on the supernovaed sun. And so my question in my mind is, was that done by the Zotvash, the reprogramming of the android, or could it possibly have been done by Section 31 as a way to get the Federation to stop trying to save the Romulans?
I'd lean towards Section 31. I just.
Yeah,
If
that's
it was the
somebody.
Romulans, that'd be like cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Although it is, and this is called out in the comics a lot clearer, but the Tal Shiar never believed that the Federation was going to save the Romulans from the supernova. They thought that it was a ruse and that the Federation had a secret plot to eliminate the Romulans the whole time. And so the Tal Shiar in the comics was actually trying to destroy the Federation before the Federation could conduct this rescue mission.
Yeah.
And so they definitely, the Zotvash would not have had any problem destroying those fleet yards because they never believed to begin with that it was an actual true
the Tal Shiar-
humanitarian effort.
And if they could use androids to do it, so much the better.
Exactly.
And the Tal Shiar were
The Tal Shiar is the Romulan secret police.
okay. So yeah, all
Or
right.
just police.
Well,
So
Right.
Everything Romulans
that's
do is
not
a
because
secret.
you're always going to have
Right. Right.
well,
I
but
enjoy
you're always
that
going to have a group of
Yeah.
Puritans that are like, no, we don't want to leave. We want
Right.
to die with the sun.
Right.
Right.
And I'm sure there were
And,
probably those.
Like
but-
at
like-
the same time this rescue's happening, you've also got Spock in his experimental spacecraft with the red matter,
Right.
which I don't know what the red matter was ever supposed to
It was-
actually do.
It was supposed to stop the sun from going supernova, supposedly.
How? It
I
appears to
don't know.
create wormholes. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't.
Yeah, instead it's just like
Yeah.
sent him
Well,
back
in
in time, and
sufficient
that's where we
quantities,
get
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
get it.
we
It's
get
like-
the other
It's a
timeline.
MacGuffin. If we question too deeply, we'll just start going back to
Going down the
time
wormhole.
suits and
Anyway, so
stuff,
there,
and we
but
don't wanna do that.
yeah, I just wanted to like
Let's not do
bring that in and
Yeah,
connect
yeah.
it.
Right.
It's just interesting.
So that's a question that I think will play out, and it'll be an interesting one. I mean, there has been zero talk of Section 31 so far in Picard.
Well, of course,
Yeah.
you're not supposed to talk about it. It's
Right.
it's Fight Club, you know. It's like, in
Yeah.
fact, they talked about it way too much in Discovery. It's like it's supposed to be secret. But I guess if you have like almost half of Section 31 living on your spaceship, it's going to come up from time
Yeah.
to time.
Right.
Someone's gonna walk in on the Section 31 birthday parties.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Now the other thing that I
Have
had
some
a
cake. We have to kill you now because you're seeing us.
concern about. So
Space cake.
at one point,
Ooh, I want some space cake.
Picard goes to Starfleet to ask to be reinstated.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks to an admiral there. Interestingly, that admiral, before she was an admiral, served on the Enterprise. There's a couple episodes of Next Gen that she was in. One where she was sitting in Wesley's seat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Wesley wasn't there or something. She was navigator or something. And then another one she was in like one of the gold uniforms like Data.
She served up
in
a big
engineering,
heaping
I think.
helping of FU to Picard when.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and
So there's
Kind of in fairness, though, Picard served a huge heaping helping of
Yeah.
fuck you to
Yeah.
all of Starfleet,
Yeah.
especially the higher ups in
Right.
an interview that he had
Yeah.
in the first episode.
right.
But
he
that
wasn't quiet
reporter
about
shouldn't
it.
have asked. Reporter
Wasn't
shouldn't have asked,
supposed
but
to.
yes, he should have controlled himself a little better.
Well, he's
But I
also
think
got
with-
a brain problem that might have
Right.
led to it.
Right. And so that was another thing that
Brain
we saw
problem
in
that
the
leads to
episode.
honesty.
Well, rage.
Right.
Right. So that I think is that manifestation of what we heard about in the last episode, All Good Things,
Yeah.
where he's got
Yeah.
Ironic syndrome in the future, and it's basically a death sentence. So he finds out in episode 2. There's what's that doctor's name?
The one from the Stargazer?
Yes.
Agnes Andrati.
Yes. Right.
Something in his.
No. No.
Okay.
Not at. God, I thought I had it down here.
Well, I guess.
I lost it. Well, anyway,
What'd you do?
it's Linda's got it on screen there now. That guy right there,
He looked really familiar. I bet I didn't.
Merrick
know it
or
was
something
from-
like
Yeah,
that.
he's been in
Anyway,
other
he was the chief physician on the Stargazer when Picard was in command. That was Picard's first command, and so he had contacted him to try to get a medical release form to certify him as fit for space travel. And so the doctor did the research. It came back. He's fine. He's in perfect health, except they've detected an abnormality in his parietal lobe. And
Picard's just like, I could have told you about that.
right, so that's sort of a nod to that Ironic syndrome. And basically, that guy tells him, that physician tells him that, this is going to kill you, and you're bound and determined to go back out into space anyway. And he said yes. And he said, well, I hope whatever mission you're going on kills you then, so that you don't have to endure
Kills
this.
you before
before
this does.
Yes, because it sounds like this is not going to be a pleasant way for him
Is
to
it going
go.
to be like a debilitating death?
I don't know, but he said it
Didn't look too good for him on All Good
Voyager.
Things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on All Good Things.
But isn't it an insanity death? It's an insanity
It's an
death.
insanity.
Yeah, it's like you just
It's
start
a
going
dementia
crazy and
death,
you go, you have episodes of rage where you can't control your rage, I guess, apparently.
Yeah, because like in All Good Things, I remember no one was taking him seriously because everybody knew he had this awful disease,
Right.
and so they're just like, oh,
Ironic syndrome.
crazy Grandpa Picard
Yeah.
has this, and he's seeing things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that that kind of made me sad in a way because it's kind of foreshadowing that he may die in this series at some point.
I didn't see this. I saw the first episode, and I like the idea of this being serious.
Yeah, it's
Actually.
definitely a more serious.
There's a couple of
series.
things that to me, the one, if we do get to watch him die, it'll be hopefully not hokey death.
If we
Right.
get to watch him, I don't
I'm
want to
looking
watch
forward.
him die.
I know.
Yeah, well, he's heroic. He wants to see a heroic death.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
the
Yeah, he
biggest
needs a
hero
hero's
of
But I
death.
the
don't
generation.
want
He
to
needs
see
that.
it.
Yeah.
So
I'd
my
rather see
question
that
though
than
is,
You're
if
right.
he does die,
But I still don't want to see it.
Yeah.
will the series continue on?
I was
Not
wondering
as
about
Picard.
No.
I was wondering
mean
if they
Star
had
Trek?
only like a season.
Yeah,
or
I
two
mean,
of
will
this.
that be the end of
Well,
the?
no, if,
the
they,
series,
if
or
we
will
get
they-
some standout characters, they might do a spin-off. But yeah,
Yeah.
it would be weird to be named Picard. With
Well,
Picard.
I know,
what I
but-
think, what I think this is
Yeah.
I think they're setting something up for later. Is like this is the interstitial between their long drought between Voyager and now.
Yeah.
Well, then they're going to have to get some characters that are actually remarkable at some point that are not Picard. Because right now they don't have them. But it is early.
It's
so
2
really-
episodes
yeah.
in. Like,
Well,
Yeah, but
that
There's
character.
a lot of characters that usually pop out. I mean, there's nothing standing out. There's nothing special about any of these other characters. So
I think there's potential at the end of episode 2 with what was the gal's name that he had communicated?
Soji
Was it
or Daj,
Da-
the girl that the
Oh,
No,
no,
android.
the one,
Dodge
the
is-
one that's got the ship, the one he brought the wine to.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Rafi Musakir.
Raffi. Thank you.
Yep.
I would
Yeah,
have
I
liked
think-
a little bit more backstory on that one.
I think we'll get that in episode.
Yeah,
I hope
we'll
so.
get that.
Because
in
he
probably
just
the
got there, and I think she's got some potential too, right? Like some
Yeah.
contact.
If they get
this
in
famous
episode 3,
captain.
then they beat Watchmen because you didn't get any context at all about anything in that
Yeah.
HBO series until episode 5. So yeah, it's
Right.
like I'm gonna hold you to that. You know,
Yeah.
it's like
God, I'll get him on the phone. Right?
But-
I want this
Yeah,
to be
I
awesome.
want-
As long as it's
I'm
good.
sure they will
Like-
because they really didn't touch on. You saw Rufy Musakir in
Rufy. There's
Raffi.
okay. I was
Rufy,
just wondering,
Raffi.
It's like, the villains are
Musakir.
getting darker all
Yes,
the time.
right.
It's like it's a Rufy.
You saw her in the comics, and she was Picard's number 1 aboard his flagship as admiral, and and they were both very close there. She actually didn't call him captain; she called him JL, and mostly because he hated it. So and he knew that she would not stop calling him that. So it was kind of a fun thing. So they were very close in the comics, and we didn't see any reason why they have this adversarial.
Obviously a falling out.
Yes, and we didn't see any hint of that in the comics. So I'm sure they're going to address it in the upcoming episodes.
But as far as not having any standout characters, I think we're skipping over the best character, number 1.
Hasn't shown up yet. Oh, you mean
Yes,
the
he
dog?
has.
The
Yeah,
dog.
the dog. Come
Yeah.
on.
Oh,
And I love the dog's real name because when you look at him, you can see his real name is De Niro. And when you look at him, he's a pit bull. He looks,
Like De Niro.
like De Niro.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Now,
just awesome.
I assume he was named number 1 because Picard just couldn't get him to stop humping things.
Huh.
Wouldn't that be peeing on things?
No, he's referring to
I don't
Riker.
remember
Right.
Riker
Yeah.
peeing on things. Yeah.
He's referring to Riker always having a love in every port.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Use the
Well, there's still
space in
time
the
for
bathroom,
the-
Riker.
The synthetic, he happens upon is depressed because the whole universe hates it.
like
I mean, I'm looking forward.
the Hitchhiker's Guide to the
Yeah,
Galaxy.
sort of like that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Everybody hates me. And
So-
they
I
do.
see that you're happy. I wish I knew what it felt like.
Yeah. So, but it looks like we've got a possibility of having a return of Data's personality, maybe
Essence.
in memories, in a new character, and
Mhm.
that's this Daj / Soji, which are 2 twins, which are
Well, one of them's dead.
one of them's now dead,
Yeah.
right? They're created by a process called neuronic cloning,
Yeah,
right?
something like that.
Something
That always results in twins
always results in twins,
because reasons.
right? And so I found it interesting that the one
But
twin.
that explains the Data and his
Lore?
brother, Lore.
Lore?
They were actually cybernetic devices. These are actually human.
Yeah,
These are
those
cloned-
were separate generations
I
of
think they're trying
the.
to say that consciousness arises out of some quantum level
Mhm.
phenomenon, right? And so that idea of quantum pairing
Yeah.
and that kind of thing is, I think, what they're going for.
What
with
he
that.
said.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I think
Yeah.
that's right.
But I mean, if you're trying to make a human robot, you failed completely because the abilities of those two are far beyond what humans or robots seem to be capable of doing. It's like
Well, they were probably within the capability
Well,
of Data.
we
well,
saw
I
that
guess-
she had far greater capabilities than a human did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like in that,
That one jump.
The
alone was-
jump-
Yeah.
That was crazy.
yeah.
It's like,
Apparently, also like transporter technology's come a long way because you have
Yes.
people just like flashing in and out.
Yeah, I love the transporter is
Which
like
is
walking
really-
through a.
Walking through a door.
That's where
Yes.
I think it would go if you
Yeah.
if over the years. I think
Yeah.
someone, especially like death troops,
My
that would
only-
be very
my-
useful.
My only concern with watching that was, how do you know when you're walking into one that somebody's
That's
going
what
to
Seth
That's what I
materialize? at that-
said.
I know.
said that,
They need like a red-green light on it or
I was
something
saying
just
that
to
they
know.
can probably buffer the pattern long enough to make sure that whatever's coming. through-
Maybe.
Do you
Right,
remember
'cause there's-
the episode
you don't want people like
Right.
that would be unfortunate.
Next
Getting
Generation
splurged,
where
splooged, or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
terrorists
Splinched?
abducted
Splinched.
the doctor?
Wait, go again.
Next Generation, terrorists abduct the doctor.
Okay.
They had these like flash teleporters, but it made them sick.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they ripped through subspace
Yeah.
in a different way.
Yeah.
In that one, and it was
So,
terribly bad for
I
their
mean, if you
bodies.
really don't care about your troops, then I guess you could use that.
Yeah.
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 Didn't seem like they cared about him a whole lot.
No, they didn't. They really didn't. They had acid for blood, I guess.
Yeah,
or
when
what.
did Romulans get crossbred with xenomorphs?
I
What are you
don't
talking
know.
about?
When the one Romulan just like spit acid.
Well, he
blood.
bit into a capsule.
Did he?
Yeah.
That's-
He
Oh,
bit
I
into a
see.
capsule and
Okay.
spit the acid on it. That's why
Well,
his
he must
own
have
face
spit a
started.
whole lot of acid.
Well, he spit it onto that gun.
Well, then why
And
but
that
she
gun-
was like burning.
Well, she
all-
was burning,
Yeah.
right? He spit the acid on her, but his face was also burning from chewing into the acid, and the gun was also dissolving. So it was a
Okay.
very caustic acid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
he
missed-
bit into a
I missed
capsule.
the
You can
capsule.
watch him
So is it the gun that
go like this and
exploded?
bite down. Yeah, the
Yeah.
gun
The
exploded,
gun.
and that's what.
But she looked like she was well on her way to death.
Well, she was certainly injured. I
Distressed,
mean,
yeah.
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 I mean, it was a very caustic acid. You can imagine.
Yeah, I
And
was just
the-
like, wow, she didn't last long, did she?
Right, and the nice thing about that was that you saw that the androids definitely feel pain now.
Mhm.
So,
Or at least have algorithms. that
Although I did have a
simulate
problem
that.
leading
Yeah.
up to that.
Well, the human ones,
yeah,
like
that's
we
what
don't
I'm
know
saying.
about the synths.
it's
No,
a very,
no.
a very
I guess
simple
pain
problem,
is actually an algorithm. So,
which
yeah.
is that Picard was winded.
Yes.
He's ancient. He's like 70 years old.
He has a fake heart.
That's true.
He's 70 years old.
Yeah, the
He's not
Federation
going to
can
be.
probably
I get
just, like,
winded, but that's because
replace
I'm out
whatever.
of shape.
Just like
Yeah.
And my heart's not. It's not doing its
Yeah.
job.
Well,
Being
so
winded
but-
isn't just getting enough blood to the muscles
Right.
too. It's how much lactic acid's being pulled away. It's all
Yeah.
this stuff.
I don't know.
Well,
I
and-
think- I
and
think
in
it's
they
the
can
like-
probably
series-
just like beam out your lungs and beam in
Somebody
some
just
new
got
ones.
Well, I mean-
fooled.
Does he really want to be a robot though?
no.
No,
The
you
Federation
can,
doesn't
clone
like him
your,
already.
Me?
Like clone your
gets-
lungs. You've
I
got
He's
their
getting too
your
close to being
lungs.
synth.
Take
They're
all
gonna
my
ban
parts.
Picard.
I'll take. Yeah, screw that. I'll be a robot.
Yeah,
I'll beep every time I go through that
Boy-
metal detector at the
Boy,
airport. I don't
this is
care.
uncomfortable because I agree with John again.
Well, so Patrick Stewart is 79, but the character he plays, Jean-Luc Picard, is actually supposed to be 90 in the show.
Yeah.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah.
But I wish his
Future.
stunt double looked a little bit more like him. It's like from behind. It's like when he's running, because Patrick Stewart shouldn't be running.
No,
But it's like they've
Space Grandpa's got to stay
got.
healthy.
But if you look, you can see that his double
Space Grandpa, you're
has
fired.
has fuzz on the side of his. I would have figured they'd watch it again.
Sure that wasn't just a light flare?
Yeah.
Look at
I
that
know what
flare.
lens flare.
Th-
is.
th-
J.J.
this-
Abrams
yeah,
came
this
in
isn't a J.J. Abrams
Yeah.
show.
Indeed.
There is lens flare in it.
What's
I don't know if you've noticed that. I was watching that
But
when
it's
I was
not-
trying to
it's
grab
not
some
JJ
pictures for
level,
Linda.
Yeah.
He loves lens flares. He thinks they're the neatest thing. It's
Yeah.
like it's everywhere. You
Yeah.
saw this.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
There's
I
an
have
overabundance
Is
of
JJ
lens
involved
flares.
with Discovery at all?
No.
Because God,
Well,
Discovery loves lens flares.
Only in the respect that Secret
Robot?
Hideout
Yeah.
is a subsidiary of Bad Robot, which is owned by J.J. Abrams. So and Secret Hideout was responsible for Discovery. So
Did JJ copyright lens flares? he owns them.
I don't
now?
know. Maybe.
They're his?
I don't know how anyone works on the bridge of the JJ Enterprise.
With all the lens flares.
It's like without really strong prescription sunglasses.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's all white and all lens flare.
Yes.
It's just gotta be so hard on
It's
the
like
eyes.
Check off readings. I can't read the screen. There's the lens
The
flare.
screen is just a lens flare in my face.
So the next thing I think we need to talk about is the fact that so we had Picard meeting that admiral at Starfleet, and then and he tells her about the Zhat Vash supposedly being on Earth and what a concern that is. And the admiral kind of dismisses him and gets rid of him, right? And then she calls the head of Starfleet Security, Commodore O, Vulcan, and relays those concerns to her. And she said, well, if there was something like that, we would definitely know about it, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about it. So they break the call, and then she calls in her lieutenant. And what was that lieutenant's name? I think I got it down here.
See, I have the feeling that
Narissa, Lieutenant Rizzo. And she looks like a human, but anyway, she calls her in and essentially...
Sounds like an Italian name.
It's a Muppet rat.
Hey.
Yeah.
What do you want from me?
Essentially chastises her for the failed apprehension of Daj and that huge explosion and the fact that some of the security video that was captured during the event, you can see a bit of a lens flare in the reflection off of a metal surface in one of the pictures. And she said, what a terrible thing, terrible operation this was. Yeah.
This looks a lot like Disruptor Fire.
Right.
Now my question was, so I guess I'm questioning whether Zhat Vash is even involved at all, or this is all Starfleet doing this, or if Zhat Vash has infiltrated Starfleet.
Right. That's my question. Or is Starfleet Security and Section 31 working together?
Well, we don't have enough evidence for any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But we shouldn't.
Right.
It's like at this point. But I will say this: the Death Troops, whoever trained them, must have read from the Stormtrooper manual.
Right.
They kept missing.
Missing a really old man.
Yes. It's just like, yeah.
Oh,
Right.
he ducked though.
He does.
Oh yeah.
Eventually.
Eventually, at all.
Well,
it's like, oh, my back. Oh,
Well, and I think
God.
in all fairness to that scene, if I was one of those stormtroopers, I would not be worried at all about any repercussion from Picard coming after me.
Oh,
I'd
you
want to
mean
take
the
out that
Death
frickin'
Trooper?
android. Yeah, the Death Trooper. I'd want to go after that Dodge because
They went after Picard.
She's
Right.
dangerous, yeah.
So
she's dangerous.
I thought that was
Picard,
the whole point of the mission was to get the android.
Right.
But they seem to be focusing on. You're right.
Well,
Until she jumped up and just started slapping around a bit. Then it's like, hey, maybe we should shoot her.
So are there other androids? Because when they first try and capture her,
yeah,
they're like she's active, or they're
not
really
active,
worried about
yeah.
her activating,
right.
and they know that once she activates,
They're
she's going to be a
screwed.
handful.
Yeah.
So have they tried to do this before with other
It makes me
human-type
wonder.
androids?
Yeah,
Well,
actually, they'd have to, wouldn't they, to know that that's going to happen?
Yeah.
They kinda
Yeah.
have to,
So we haven't talked about this is all of these the synthetics and the two sisters, Daj and Soji, are the work of apparently Dr. Bruce Maddox,
Yes.
who had a relationship with Data back in the Next Generation,
Right.
and he has actually wanted to more or less disassemble Data and
Figure out how
he worked and
Have
build
we
more.
seen Maddox before?
Yeah,
Yes.
in
Next
the
Gen.
episode "The Measure of a Man."
Yep.
Okay. When they wanted, he was one of the guys that wanted to actually disassemble Data.
Yes.
He was
That's
the
his
guy that
original
came to
plan.
take Data.
Maddox originally worked with Data before he was in Starfleet.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
then he was head of the Daystrom Institute.
Was that him? Linda pulled
Yes.
up a picture.
Yeah,
That is
Oh.
Maddox.
that face—that's a very punchable face, by the way.
Yes.
It is. That is.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking right there. It's like I wouldn't,
So,
wouldn't
I'm-
be hitting the brakes for that face.
I'm fully imagining that we'll see him again at some point in the series.
Oh yeah.
But they keep referring to the nest of Daj and Soji-like androids. Where is the nest? We got to find the nest. So apparently there is some central place where these are coming
So
from.
since
Being
Dodge
made.
wasn't activated, they put a cover program over her so that she'd act more human.
I
So
guess.
she could do all the things she's supposed to do. She's
I-
a deep cover.
Yeah, and she has a mom. Like, she talks to her mom, so, like, what's that about?
Well, I don't know if she necessarily does, right?
Oh,
they
yeah.
said she came around 3 years. You know, you can only find evidence of her from the last 3 years.
Sure.
You know, so they could have put memories in her. She could have called, you know, some dummy account.
Yeah.
That has a mom-like thing. Because when she said something, the screen kind of flashed a little bit, and then it looked like it was loading another Just Go See Picard program or something like that.
Yeah.
So there might not actually be a human on the other side.
That is fair.
So,
Very good point. I didn't catch that.
because it was
so.
just just a phone call. You
Right.
don't know for sure, you know, what memories are hers
Oh,
and what are uploaded.
but it appeared to me like she'd been Blade Runnered.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't know.
Yeah.
At least at the
definitely
start.
She doesn't know what she is.
Maybe right before
Right.
they killed her, she did.
Nexus 6 is running through Picard.
Now, it seems like her twin sister, though, is a little bit more aware.
Is she?
No, doesn't look like it.
Because she mentioned she had a twin sister, but...
Well, she mentioned she had a twin sister. Like,
I
guess.
think
Yeah,
that
I
the guy
suppose.
she's sleeping with knows she's an android.
Oh,
but I don't
oh,
definitely.
think she
most
knows
definitely,
she's an
because
android.
he is
Yeah.
he's involved in this.
Yes.
Right.
Somehow, yeah.
He's
in
a
some way.
Zotvosh in
Well,
some
how would
way.
you not
He's-
know?
He's honeypotting her.
I mean,
Right.
Catfishing, maybe.
No, that's the honeypot.
Oh, okay. But
I don't know.
Just honeypot.
That's barely at the edge of my consciousness. I don't know what that
Don't-
means.
yeah.
Exactly.
That's where you sleep with someone to get closer to him as an asset.
I always look at honeypots as what Winnie the Pooh's looking for. So it's like
I'm with this guy.
he wants
He wants the
honeypot.
honey.
Yeah. So, no, that's cool. It's like, we'll roll with.
Now,
Now-
I know.
But yeah, that's the method that he is trying to defend to his sister, Lieutenant Rizzo.
Right.
As like, yeah, you guys' method of blowing shit up definitely worked, whereas I'm with the asset right now.
It's
Yeah.
not blown up too, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, look
Right.
at her, not dead,
Not
not
Right.
dead and blown up. Who?
Yes.
And do you think
you're
that,
giving me shit about how I do things?
and do
Come
you,
on.
Do you think that
Rather than
that...
ask it questions, I had sex with it, and it's still around. My plan
Which
worked.
is a
I'm
first
going
for
to
me.
have more sex with this robot until I find out the truth. That is my mission. I'm going to do that.
Do you think that this
Job
Narissa, Lieutenant Narissa
The Riker
Rizzo, is actually
with robots.
Narek's brother?
Hmm?
Do you think that Narissa Rizzo
Or if it's just a term of endearment. kind of
is
thing. Like a.
Narek's brother? Or Narek's
Yeah,
brother?
they
Well,
said
he
so.
he said, yeah,
Because he said, my brother died a couple months ago when he first met Dodge in episode
It
1,
could
at the
be
end of
another
episode
brother.
1.
that could just be cover
It could be.
lies, but he
I wonder if
definitely
his brother
he
went
remarks
through this.
to her
When they're
about how
talking together,
weird
yeah, they're
weird her ears are
Yeah.
round.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like, what a disguise, round ears.
Right.
So I was led to believe that she was a Romulan, which is why
Yes,
I think that
I agree. But I'm wondering if she was his Romulan brother, and that's why he says my brother died. Because he had a
Oh.
sex change as well as becoming a human to go completely undercover.
And he's just like, wow, your ears look weird.
Yeah, right.
Among other things.
Among other things.
I'm
They
not
still
sure.
look
I don't know if
pointy.
they. I
And
don't know they
so
hinted
if
at
she's
that.
a Romulan,
Yeah.
is Commander O, the head of Starfleet Security, the Vulcan, also a
That's
Romulan?
what I
Almost
assume.
certainly. I assume she's not only a Vulcan, but the head of that secret.
Right.
Like, that's why I thought that Zotvaj had
the head of
infiltrated
Zotvaj,
Starfleet.
yeah.
I wasn't so sure of that, or if Starfleet has its own agenda regarding the...
Does Starfleet have any internal security?
Well-
Because you remember those aliens that infiltrated Star Trek, the
Yeah.
mind controlling things. It's like
Oh,
it's
those
like,
gross bugs.
yeah.
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 Well,
It's like shouldn't they have learned from that?
Security
It's
is
like,
awfully lax, it
yeah,
seems.
it
Commander?
is. It really is. They need some help.
Commander
Yeah.
O definitely didn't
Norton
seem to
antivirus
want the
something.
Admiral
I
to
don't know
know.
why.
No.
Norton.
She didn't want the
Yeah.
Admiral to know anything.
Yeah, Commander O didn't want the Admiral to know about this operation. Like, they're obviously keeping it secret from Star Trek, which does fit with Section 31.
Well, obviously,
But
the
also fits.
Admiral knows she's Romulan.
No.
Because they're talking about war. It's like if all this becomes clear to the Federation.
I don't
there's
think
gotta
the
be
Admiral
war.
knows she's Romulan. The Admiral thinks she's the Vulcan head of...
Yeah, we don't know that
Starfleet
she's
security.
Romulan yet. We
I got the idea that she.
well, yeah, we get the
is-
idea that she's Romulan.
No, the Admiral's aware that she's Romulan.
Maybe?
A
I don't
little
know.
I don't
bit.
think so.
Maybe not the Zat Vaj, but Romulan.
Yeah, I don't think she knows that.
All right, we'll
I
see.
didn't get that same impression.
We will
Yeah.
see.
I didn't pick up on that either, but it's definitely possible. You know,
Yeah.
Starfleet's higher ups. It seems like it's a consistent theme in all of the Star Trek series. Is
Yeah.
that the higher ups just don't really know what they're
Right.
doing.
I don't think.
Yeah, they
I don't
don't.
think
And
the.
they're always getting messed up.
And
with
that's
something,
all
and
through
it's about,
Discovery.
Yeah.
Discovery,
it's,
like,
it's up to
yeah.
the ground troops to make the vision of Starfleet work. It's up to the captains. It's up to the ensigns.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, so you
you know,
can
and then once you become an admiral, somehow you lose all of your
Yeah.
integrity, and you just sit behind a desk. You're like, well, what should I mess up
Well,
today?
the
Right,
Discovery
right.
went to the mirror
It's real
universe,
bad.
and when it came
Yeah.
back, the Starfleet command had lost the Federation. They pretty much, and then Discovery saved it somehow. But it's
Yeah,
like,
there's Rizzo. Linda had her up on the screen there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I didn't get the impression that the admiral of Starfleet was evil or had
Right.
evil intent in any way. She
No.
just feels that she knows what's right, and that Picard's gone his own way, and
yeah.
she's doing whatever she has to do to keep the Federation together. If that means sacrificing the Romulans, then we sacrifice the Romulans. Starfleet's more important.
What's
But she's not
To
inherently.
be fair, I mean, you have to
evil.
assume, I think, that the higher ups are going to be more jaded.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
True, but like Mark is right. We like anytime an admiral comes on to showed up at the Next Generation
yeah,
or
they
Deep
always-
Space Nine,
bad things.
it
were
was
gonna happen.
never a good thing.
Yeah.
No.
It was always some idiot thing that Jean-Luc or
gonna have to
Cisco
fix,
had
sure.
to fix, or stop them from getting eaten by an alien or something.
Right.
Stop that admiral from destroying the crystalline entity, which
Like-
they failed to do. But it's like,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was the higher ups that were responsible for the whole insurrection thing, right? They were
Mhm.
working
Yes,
with,
yes, they were. They wanted
take
the
over that
immortality
planet.
To be,
Yeah.
to be shared
Mhm.
with it, and there's an admiral again.
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, nothing good ever happens with admirals.
And then
It's
there's
like,
Yeah.
so the next, I guess we can segue right into the whole Borg thing. So that Narek, who's the sister of Lieutenant Narissa Rizzo.
All right, first,
Yes.
like I would like to point out because I did see this in the show.
Yeah.
That sign down there.
Yeah.
This facility has gone X number of days without an assimilation.
Yes, I know. That was awesome. And that
Yeah.
translates to 16 years, by the way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So good timing. It's
Yes.
actually accurate.
Yes.
Does that mean
So,
there were
right,
assimilations
there's been-
at
no,
some
that means-
point?
No, there definitely probably were.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
At the very, very beginning.
I'm
but,
told
Yes.
that
yeah, that's a long streak.
they
there.
found
Right.
this as a derelict. It's like
Yes.
there were Borg inside of it, but they were
They were disorganized, but they
were, yeah,
weren't.
they were pulled
And they
out of the
warn them right
platform,
now that if you go into a gray area, make sure your badge is lit because otherwise you're going to be at risk of assimilation because they're still dangerous.
Like you see, like Borg, like when they start assimilating people, they just like inject something into your neck.
Right.
Which
Nanoprobes.
came from First Contact. But before that, it was, I don't even know what it was, but it wasn't an instantaneous process because they had
Well-
the babies getting all.
Well, yeah, I assume they were
Assimilated.
nanites that you get injected with, and then they start
Yeah.
like
Converting it.
reproducing in your body.
Which was a MacGuffin to make the crew turn into
Make it
Borg
faster.
faster.
But
and it's
Right.
like-
still, I mean, you'd have to figure that like on a Borg ship, there's all sorts of things you can just like cut your hand on and get some Borg nanites up in you.
well, if it was before, in the original, right, like Q-Who, it's like there were no nanites. At least there were none that were explained. It just seemed like the Borg were actually assimilated slowly. You remember, like they opened that drawer and found that baby that was
Yeah.
getting Borgified.
Yeah.
It's like it's a slower process. It appeared, but it's like,
Well, for the ones that they're making of their own, I think they can probably still do the grow it process. But clearly, there's a method for having adults turned into them. They did it to Picard. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
they assimilate Picard.
Like
They have
Well,
to-
yeah.
Picard got assimilated pretty fast.
yeah,
Yeah.
he did.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't nanite fast, but
Right.
It was Locutus.
Yeah. It didn't
Yeah.
take too long. It was like from one episode
Either that
to
or
the
he's,
next.
he's weaker willed than he presents.
exactly that. Guy.
And we know that's not true. We know that's not true. He's Picard.
So I
I feel that his death is going to disturb you.
It's going
it's going
to
to
crush
disturb
me.
me terribly.
It is going to be a hammer blow.
I just
mean-
want his death to be better than Captain Kirk's.
Yeah.
'Cause
What
that's,
happened
that's
at the end of
stupid.
Generations?
That was
What happened to
stupid.
Captain
Yeah.
Kirk? Episode 5. I know I'm going to die alone, and I was never alone. And then he dies, and like there's John Luke right there. when he dies. He was not alone.
Right.
So I thought he was supposed to die alone.
Unless he's saying being with Jean-Luc is like being alone.
Which is sad. That's a sad message, isn't it? It's like, that, you know.
Who says he's gonna die?
Who?
Who says
Picard's gonna die?
He touched a time crystal, obviously.
Obvious. Didn't you see that?
Well,
It's like there's
Irumodic syndrome is a death sentence.
kinda like
So I
Huntington's
guess it depends on how
in this
fast
world.
it advances. But the doctor from the Stargazer basically said, you know, you got maybe one mission left in you. I hope you die on this mission rather than succumb to your disease.
Do you
That's a significantly faster timeline than I would have expected. too.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping that I'd have 7 years of Star Trek Picard.
Right,
Right,
right.
Which we can, because there's
I mean, they can always come up with something
yeah,
to
some
take
weird,
care of the virus.
like alteration of the board nanites that will fix it.
Do you find it? Do you
It's like-
find it interesting that he now has sort of the same thing that Sarek had when he
Oh,
right before
That's
he
really
died?
interesting.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, and I thought it was interesting too that he mind melded with Spock, right? And Spock was there trying to handle reunification and bring the Romulans in and make the Romulans a part of, you know, the Vulcan culture and try to bring them into the mainstream. And that's the same thing Picard was essentially trying to do with saving them from the Romulan supernova, is trying to save them and bring them into the
Some kind of latent message Spock left or Sarek left inside of his head.
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
See, that kind of brings up a
Plus,
point.
it's going to be fun watching him have his episodes of Tourette's
If they wanted to go an
as a character.
interesting
Shut up.
direction
You're
with
just
the
a bad
Kelvin
man.
verse,
You are. It's like,
why don't we have a movie that explores like how the Romulan culture deals with finding out that there's a ticking time clock? It's like, are they going to become more aggressive and try and spread out even more to save their culture?
Right.
Or are they going to devote themselves more to science to try and fix their star?
Right.
It's like, that would be a good Star Trek movie in the Kelvin verse.
Right.
supernovas don't just happen.
Yes,
Right.
It's like a long period of time. You kind of
It
see
is surprising
it coming.
that they were
yeah.
caught unawares. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
which is
we
like
know when our star's going to die.
Bill had a
We don't
theory
have
about
all
Right.
technology.
Yeah, I was saying it. You
Yeah.
know, it seems kind of convenient that the two biggest enemies of the Federation, the Klingons and the Romulans, have both had a devastating incident. In the Klingons, it was the case of the
Kronos,
Kronos,
the Praxis.
Praxis
Yeah.
destruction,
The
right?
Praxis moon.
That
Which was all about episode
destroyed them, and the Federation
6,
had to come.
Undiscovered Country.
that would
Yeah.
be one hell
Or
of
movie 6.
a revelation. It's like
Right.
that Section 31.
That's what I
That's
was saying.
just-
Section
What did I
31
say?
triggered the destruction
What did I
of
say?
that. It would be
I said if that's true, the Federation should be destroyed because you have encouraged a body of people that wantonly destroyed an entire star.
Wantonly?
Yeah.
Wantonly.
Yeah.
Wantonly.
wantonly.
Just willy nilly.
Yeah.
Just destroy the star. Let's practice the Cold War mentality of, you know, we will destroy everything in order to preserve our way of life.
Well,
And
one
it's
of the
like-
things I think I'm looking forward to
that's
this in this is Picard in his interview corrected the language, right? Because they were like the
Yes.
the
Romulan lives versus lives.
lives, yeah, and he went lives.
All lives
Right.
matter.
And well, but I'm looking forward to that Picard holding up the moral language
Right.
and
Yeah. Picarding
pushing.
Federation up a bit more because it's
Yeah.
not Picard enough.
Was it,
Yeah.
is it a statement against
Yeah.
modern times too? Maybe.
It
It's
is.
like, yeah.
Sure.
I mean,
Which I
whether or
like.
not they
Well,
intended it.
Just,
They
It's
did.
good sci-fi.
I think they
That's
did.
what
imagine
it
they
is all the
did,
time.
See, Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry's idea has always been utopian,
Mhm.
and that would be a good direction for this series to go. For Picard to kind of heal the Federation and heal Starfleet a bit and bring it back to a bit more of Gene Roddenberry's vision. It's like,
Yeah.
What role is 7 of 9 going to play, do you think?
Well,
she's-
there's the Fenris Rangers, and
Which we don't know anything about.
we don't.
actually haven't met
we know.
them yet,
we
so
know a
it's like,
little bit. I mean, we haven't seen any reveals in the Picard
do
story
you
so
think that
far.
they're going to be the next show?
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know
okay, so we
if
saw
the pacing.
we
Yeah.
saw Hugh
Yeah.
at the end of episode 2.
Did we?
Yes.
I
Did we
didn't see that?
Where did we see Hugh?
Yeah.
Hugh walked into where Soji was and said, I saw what you did with that Borg. You spoke to him in his own language and told him.
That was huge.
That was Hugh.
That
was
was
Hugh.
How did I miss that?
Wow.
Yeah.
God, I can't believe you guys
I
missed
did.
that.
I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
watch that again.
There he is. That's him. That's what he looks
Wow.
like in the new one versus the old one.
Wow.
Well, cool.
Yeah, so that was him. So
I
I'm
didn't know the
very
Borg had
certain
language.
that we're going to see more of him and probably 7 of 9 in episode 3. And
So-
so they're with the Fenris Rangers, and the Fenris Rangers have basically picked up the slack that the Federation left when they stopped caring about everybody equally. So the Fenris Rangers apparently are a group that is out there to help and defend and support those that can't help and defend and support themselves, supposedly. So
Seems like a natural place for Picard to get a ship from then.
yeah. So we'll see, because we know he needs a ship, but
He needs a crew.
I think he's going to get that assistance from Roofy.
Raffi,
Yeah, Roofy.
Raffi.
I'm gonna
Raffi?
call her Roofy.
don't do that. Do not do that. Oh my God. We can't take you anywhere.
So anyway,
Mark, this is why we can't
Yeah.
have nice things.
Yeah,
shut up, Seth.
Gonna find out the truth, and you're gonna be roofied.
Oh,
We're gonna get you.
Damn it!
You called me Seth by accident.
accident.
And now he's gonna blame me right about now.
It's John's fault.
There we go.
See,
Yeah.
I'm okay if you've come like full circle.
I've come full circle
and
now.
you're back to.
I'm accidentally calling you Seth.
I've never seen that picture of her before. It's like,
That's a
Future episode, probably.
future
yeah.
episode, yeah.
Looking all starshipy.
So
one.
I
she still
think-
looks angry.
I
but
think
yeah.
she's the one that gets Picard the ship, and probably helps him with the crew. Because the guy that's going to be the pilot, according to his character information that you can find on the internet, is an ex Starfleet officer himself. So looks like they're all the main characters there. Picard,
Paris.
her, and the guy that's going to be the pilot are ex
Named
Starfleet.
Wash.
What's that?
Could be named Wash.
I was thinking
Come on.
Paris from
Not
Voyager.
Paris.
Yeah.
Like a
I
leaf
don't have
on
his
the
name
wind.
handy,
Yes.
but
They are
He's
doing a lot of
dead.
advertising for Picard wine.
yes,
Like every scene has a wine bottle.
right.
Yeah, and for a bottle of wine, he gets a starship. It's like,
Good wine,
Well,
man.
he gets a
guess.
conversation.
Well,
And I
And then
think
it's
in the
Picard and his takes
course
away.
of the
Yeah.
conversation,
Yes.
he convinces her. It's not only the bottle of wine, but also the fact that there's a secret Romulan cabal operating with
it
impunity
really
on
can't
Earth.
be that great a wine because he keeps drinking Earl Grey still.
yeah, yeah.
Well, you can't drink wine all the time.
Never trust
Just
a
for
skinny
breakfast,
chef.
lunch, and
Yeah.
dinner.
Speak for yourself, man. Judgment over here from Bill. God.
Yes.
I don't feel like this is a safe space anymore, Mark. Let's leave.
Now, did anybody else
Let's
feel
get a
that?
doll. Show me where he touched you. Show me where he touched you.
Did anybody else feel that in watching the Romulans taking apart the Borg and the Borg cube, you know, the reclamation project, that it was almost the Romulans now assimilating the Borg?
No, not really. I got more of a
Mm.
like they're almost like felt like they were reassembling it to be a museum.
Do you remember this episode with Lore where they had the Borg ship and they ran into and Hugh was on that one, and they were asking, or Gordy was asking Hugh why they're following Lore. He said he gave us purpose, and it's like maybe the Romulans are giving the Borg purpose because when they were disconnected from
Yeah, they weren't too
the
happy.
Unity, it's like they're probably aimless, and it's like
Right.
the Romulans might have given them a reason to continue. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
look-
is a reverse
Like,
assimilation.
were they? Yeah, they're de-assimilating them, aren't they?
they were
So-
de-assimilated when they were cut
No.
out from the.
Well,
I
like
think
they've still
they're-
got all the Borg stuff, but they're like
Oh, they're
taking the
taking the
stuff
parts
off.
Yeah.
Is,
Taking
he,
off.
is that guy still
Well,
alive?
no, I think they were dead. I think those guys were
Yeah.
dead.
Well, he was definitely dying when they took his stuff off.
Well, I thought he was dead.
No, he wasn't dead already. That's why
Yeah, she was
Soji
talking
talked
to
to
him.
him in his own language
Oh,
and said, "Now you can be at peace," or whatever.
so they're killing him.
it looked like in some ways. And it's interesting too that they also have invited, different species from across the galaxies to come there and learn and study the Borg.
Yeah.
But it was also apparent that the Romulans, though, are taking that technology and using it to sell it or to enhance their own technology. So,
Well, they're down one homeworld now,
Are
one
they?
home system.
Are the Romulans becoming part of the Federation?
I don't think so. I
'Cause,
think
I mean, they have a whole star empire still. I mean,
Well,
really.
the Federation did kind of let them down. So.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't.
there's
really.
been a couple conversations that I've seen where the theory is that the only Romulans that are left are the ones that are living on that Borg
But they
cube.
had a whole star empire.
I know.
In fact,
Yeah, they had
Can you
way
call
more
up a
systems
I
than
know.
were
on the Star
outside the
Empire?
I know.
supernova.
the Romulan star empire, Linda.
I'm sorry.
Can you call up a map on the Romulan? Because it's
There
big,
was a
it's
whole
actually quite
neutral
big.
zone between
Yeah, I
them.
know.
Yeah,
I know.
but I mean, so that's gone. So I can see after what happened, like I bet the Romulan Empire would be like the Puerto Rico or the Federation. They just kind of didn't really help it as much as it should have been helped. But and they probably would be reticent about. Well, those are pretty.
Reticent or reticent?
Reticent.
All right.
You guys are so picky.
But
Oh, it's too small.
Grammar Nazi bitches.
yeah, I kind of made me think. Now it's the assimilated being assimilated. But
It'll be interesting to see where it goes because, like, it really did look like that was
There it is.
like the
Yeah,
Romulans were running it.
There's a lot of star empires. Like they should. There's I mean, of course, losing.
Move your seat
their-
of government to
Yeah,
a different
well,
planet,
yeah.
right?
I wonder if they destroyed all the Remans in the process. It's like because they didn't like the Remans.
no,
Yeah.
It's like so.
I thought they were going to take them out right after Nemesis. Because,
Yeah, I did too.
yeah.
It's like, but maybe the supernova did it for them.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But yeah,
But one way or the other, you're going to
Yeah,
have
we're
to call
getting
it
the-
assimilation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not. Because even if the Romulans don't even, we just gave them their freedom or whatnot, that's still the same.
Linda
Right.
appears to
Forcing
be
them.
reticent to go on.
Well, and yeah, I know. The other question I had was that sign about the days free from assimilation. Two thoughts on that. One, we're seeing that sign because it's almost certain that there's going to be simulations happening in the near future.
oh yeah,
Right.
Agreed. That's foreshadowing.
And
for
the
sure.
second thing was that translates to 16 years. Now, how long did it take the Enterprise to get Hugh to accept being an individual within the span of one episode?
Right.
Well,
Right.
It's a couple days.
And they've
whatever it
had
was.
16 years with a cube full of Borg that
But
many of them still have not most
when
of
the
them
Borg
apparently
came
have not
back,
accepted.
he was snapped right back into the
He
flight.
was, but remember, as he's beaming up, he turns and he looks and gives Geordi the eye, and then we see a few episodes later where they got back to the collective and they just lost all ability to function because of that sense of individuality, and then they ended up following lore. But they weren't just aimless. I mean, once
Yeah.
they had lore, once they had a leader,
Yeah.
they had something to do. So why are these Borg just all still aimless in this
Could
cube?
Hugh blink? I mean, because he had that one piece, so was he just?
I mean,
was
maybe
he
maybe-
just blinking. It's like rather than winking.
He just looked. He just kind of gave Geordi the eye,
You could
like,
tell
yeah,
that he
I
was
remember.
Still, yeah,
He was still
he
an
was still
individual,
connected to Geordi
yeah.
as a person.
Right.
But as far as those Borg go, you got to wonder if maybe they're keeping him in stasis or something
Maybe,
like that.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's kind of what
That's
I
what I
thought
was
is they
thinking.
were like in stasis
And
and
they're
they
trying to go as slow as they
No,
can.
but
they go
you
one
see
by
him
one.
working on parts of the ship.
Yeah, you do. They're
yeah.
wandering around doing stuff.
Well, it looked like they
There's so
were
much
like
to
it.
take
It
on.
kind of depends on what sort of resources they have.
Yeah, I guess.
But I guess we are coming up on time, so kind of as a final question, where do you guys want to see where do you guys want to see Picard go from this point? Like what are the things you're looking forward to?
Well, I'm looking forward to finding out that there are more data type androids in Starfleet, and that if they're like Daj or Soji, that they're normal adjusted androids. They're not maladjusted. They're not like Lore, for example. They're decent, upstanding sentient
until they
beings.
get activated.
Yeah.
Well, until I mean,
What
anything
happens if
that's
more board come and they just snap those other
anything that's
board right
attacked is going to defend itself, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, Soji was only violent while she was being attacked.
Would
What-
the
Once she finished
synthetics-
defended herself, she was back to
back?
normal.
Would the synthetics take the Borg side? They might actually dig the Borg. you
Yeah.
know?
They might.
Charles.
I'm looking forward to being surprised by something.
That's
Yeah.
what I was gonna say. I don't want to be. I don't want it to be predictable.
I don't want
it
to,
to be a
because
surprise.
I am a little worried. So on the computerized life form, kind of the synthetics, I'm a little worried that it's going to be just another rehash of does Data actually have free will, or what is he, or you know, I want
think-
something.
Yeah.
I want to be shocked on that realm if they're going to go that way. Shocked
I don't
by
think-
something.
I honestly don't think they will, Charles, because in some of the episodes that or some of the interviews with John Patrick Stewart, he has said that the main reason he did not want to come back and reprise Picard was because he felt that they had answered all of those questions, and that if he was going to come back and do it, it was going to have
Answer
to
just-
I
go
want
into
some-
new territory.
I want to see, and that's
Yeah.
I'm hoping. And it seems, I'm hoping to see some brand new moral questions, at least
Yeah.
that haven't been covered on television.
This is
Right.
all new stuff, right? There's no
Yep.
canon at this point. They're literally
Right.
as far out as until Discovery goes thousands
Sure.
years, or the 800 years in the future that Enterprise talked about. But
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing to really restrict them at this point. So
Yeah.
they
Right.
can do anything they want.
Yeah.
Right. So, John. What are,
Exactly what? Yeah, I want to be surprised. I don't want this to be predictable. I don't. I want, and there's no reason why it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be surprising.
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest thing is just seeing Starfleet become more the image of what it should be.
Right.
Because you can tell it's clearly drifted pretty significantly from that ideal. And so getting it back to that right place, the idea that a group of, quasi-democratic coalition of planets can actually function properly together.
Yeah.
I have
Right.
one more
would
thing.
be nice.
I have one more thing.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see if at some point, Picard, especially since he's got this new little anger problem that's going to happen in his head, finally going like Tarantino on somebody. Just
getting
'cause
really into feet?
I mean, just like, cutting somebody.
I just
ears
shot Jimmy
off.
in the face.
And just because it'd be such,
love it,
after
I
having
do.
grown up with the very calm
Uh-huh.
father figure,
Right.
to just at the end
You
watch
want
him
crazy
go, you know
grandpa."
what?
Yeah.
I'm done with you, Admiral. And,
Sort of like Kirk did with the Klingon. I have had enough of you, and he kicks him off that
in
cliff.
Or in 6, where he's like, let them die.
Yes, that was another point I wanted to bring up. Is that is completely the opposite of Picard, right? Because
It was
Kirk,
opposite of
when the
Kirk,
Klingon,
really.
well, when the Klingons are having their existential crisis because of Praxis, he's like, let them die.
Let them die.
And Picard is completely opposite of that. The Romulans are having their existential crisis with the Romulan son, but Picard wants to go save them.
Mhm.
And if you recall, in Star Trek VI, where that was, it was Spock who was trying to save the Klingons, who initiated the whole peace envoy, right, to try to save the Klingons, and it was also Spock who mind melded with Picard.
And that he was working really hard for the Romulan reunification.
That's right.
Well,
so,
So, yeah.
But
So I think there's a lot of Spock in Picard.
yeah, so what do we want?
Well, what I'm looking forward to is really a continuation of the story that we've kind of been denied since the last movies. Like, I'm looking forward to finding out what happened with Riker, with Geordi, with the rest of the cast. I'm looking forward to, like, seeing Janeway again. It's like they've got a lot of story, a lot of characters that they just abandoned.
Right.
And who we cared about from previous series, and that who could carry the story forward as opposed to always looking to the past.
I wonder if we'll see a lot of Voyager
I hope
people in
not.
the Fenris Rangers.
That
Oh no, I don't care as much for the. I don't need to see the ship's counselor again.
it's not so.
No.
It's for me. It's more that they just
Well, but-
let once Voyager was over, they kind of let that timeline almost die on the vine. Like, you've got comics and books and stuff that happen in that timeline, but we just kind of forgot that these characters ever existed. And
You
that-
never got to know her as like a person rather than a piece of fan service.
yeah.
Because she had to wear the same spandex crap. She had to be a sex object rather than a person. So I wouldn't mind seeing Troy being like Troy rather than just a sex object in space. So yeah, that might be neat.
Her and Riker's bitter divorce.
Did they get divorced?
Oh, I don't know. I think it would be
I'm
funny.
wondering about that. That might be, because like Riker, I don't know how stable a
Partner
a
he'd be?
partner he would be. Yeah.
Well, especially when she can read his mind, basically.
Yes!
It never
Right.
makes
Yes.
sense. Whenever
Right.
makes-
Just
yeah.
how many kids do you have around the galaxy, Riker? How many?
Yeah, and then it blows her mind. She's like, too much pain.
Well,
And then there's the Riker clone.
Yeah.
He's out there, isn't he, or did he die?
Yeah. No,
He's in jail now. Yeah.
So
Is he?
probably out of jail
with
and
the Cardassian jail, right? Because he pulled something in DS9 where he
Oh,
was
I didn't
gonna
know
go,
about that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's
he
right.
went and attacked something, and he had to turn himself in. Like he let his Maquis crew go, and he turned himself over to the Cardassians at the end.
Yeah.
So
Well,
So he's probably fine, right?
Riker's
they're
not.
fine. Yeah.
Cardassians are treat
Probably
prisoners
Riker
really
is
well.
not liable for the actions of his clone, is he? I mean,
Well,
honestly.
No, but I mean, at that point, just like how many like little kids from Riker's clone are coming up and going, "You're my dad," and Troy's like, "Again."
Well,
Two things I wanted to fit in real quick before we close. One was a couple of the Easter eggs I found in the episode. One was the Ferengi Trade Alliance logo projected onto the side of one of the high rises in the view of downtown Boston,
Huh.
which was kind of cool. The other one was back at Picard's chateau when he's getting ready for the interview, where he kind of bitched about the Federation, and he's standing there in the mirror to check his tie, and he's got that suit on. Well, behind him against the wall is a coat rack with a fedora on it, and where he's standing, the fedora is just right perfectly behind his head. Looks just like he did in one of the Dixon Hill episodes on the holodeck.
Oh, that's fun.
And that Dixon Hill episode happened to deal with the loss of a woman that he was investigating.
That's. Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a fun Easter egg.
Very fun Easter egg. Yeah, I looked up. I saw that in the mirror, and I'm like, "Holy shit! That has to be done on purpose." And
I bet it was.
and then I went and looked up the Dixon Hill episode, and it was the one about him trying to find this lost woman. And then the last thing I had was, I was concerned that Geordi was dead, because Geordi was in charge of building the Romulan rescue fleet on Mars in the Utopia Planitia yards, and we'd heard nothing about him other than that 96,000 people were killed in that attack until this last episode when Saban, the Romulan at Picard's estate there, Romulan male says, well, why don't you get some of the old gang back together, Geordi and Riker and all them.
Yeah, so we know they're alive.
Right, so he wouldn't have said Geordi's name if Geordi had been killed in the Mars attack.
I've heard there's
so.
going to be more of the old crew coming back in season 2.
Yeah, and
I would dig
Guinan.
some cameos.
Guinan's been asked to come back.
Yes. And she accepted, so
Yeah.
and she should be there. Honestly, whenever
they're
Picard
close
had
friends, yeah.
existential questions,
Yes.
he went to her. So
Right.
she actually has a place here.
I'm
Right.
surprised she's just not camped out on Picard's estate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, she
Right.
lives
Drinking
basically
free
forever,
wine.
right? Like, I
Right.
could see her making a detour
A
for a
little
couple of
shack.
decades.
We know she's
Like,
had like.
she should be running his tasting room.
Oh,
She should be.
one more thing. I don't know if anybody else caught this. The first episode of Star Trek Picard, it opened and you see the space scene and you see the Enterprise come up and you zoom in on 10 forward, right? What song is playing? Blue Sky.
Oh yeah.
And if you remember, Data sang that in the beginning of Nemesis at Troy and Riker's wedding.
I tried
Huh.
to black out as much of Nemesis.
And
as I
at the
could.
end of Nemesis, B4 starts humming,
yeah, he hums
singing
that
that
at
to
the end of the
himself, which is Picard's glimmer of hope that maybe Data is in there somewhere and that he's coming out. So that blue sky was kind of bookended that Nemesis episode, and it's just, yeah, I thought it was just very
I thought
cool.
it was that Measure of a Man song that they were.
No.
Man, now I'm gonna have to rewatch Nemesis.
I can just show you that. I'll show you that clip. I've got it.
But I'm much more happy about the whole idea of Riker being able to blame all the kids in the galaxy that he has on the clone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. It's the clone. The clone must. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it was you. No, it looks just like me. It wasn't me.
It was definitely the clone this time.
Yes.
Right.
This time?
This time. And the last time. And the last time.
Every time. Every time it's been the clone.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you all for joining us for another episode of Galactic Driftwood Podcast. If you have any theories of your own on Star Trek Picard and what's going on with the Zhat Vash or Section 31 or the Romulans or the Borg, please go ahead and add a comment and let us know what you think. We're going to be following this closely as the season progresses. So, and stay tuned for our next episode. We're going to take some current events and delve into the science fiction aspect of that with the coronavirus, which is in the news lately. So we're going to see how science fiction has dealt with virus outbreaks and talk about that in our next episode.
And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify. Give us a subscribe there. Comment where you can. Share it around because we don't advertise or anything. So the only way that we're going to get to more ears is by word of mouth. So
we're kind of like the Zhat Vash. We're the secret podcast. We don't advertise. We just
but we don't go around killing people quite as much.
Yet.
Quite as much.
Quite as
much.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us, Mark.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, guys. Thank you for having
we'll hope
me.
to have you back soon.
Yeah.
All right.
That's on my radar.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you all. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.